Thanks, everyone. We have a long list of people who registered and even longer list of questions. So really excited to be helpful today. My name is Veronique. I'm gonna just walk you through a little bit of an introduction today. We want to talk about the full stack founder, what's changed for founders, and how you can really build leverage with AI. As I think you saw before in the invitation, we wanted this to be very concrete. So with Jacob and Rashi, you're going to get a lot of demos and practical tips. Housekeeping, we're going to send you the recording, send you the deck. So no need to worry. You can take screenshots if you want. I think the easiest probably to keep the questions for the end. So put them in the chat and then we'll get to them because we're going to cover hopefully a lot of them. You were kind enough, many of you, to send them in advance. So to start with a high-level introduction, please meet Jacob. The three of us are based in the Bay Area and San Francisco. Jacob is the founder of Relay App, and he will tell you a lot about what it is. But basically, it's a platform to help build easily your AI agent. I know everybody's curious about that. Previously at Google, he was the founder of Timely, who got acquired by Google in 2015. Great exit. And then, Jacob, you were leading product marketing. You are the PM director, so for Gmail and Google Calendar. Rashi, currently also leading growth and demand gen for AI product at Airtable. Background at Google, we met right after Google. And I'm a big fan of Rashi's work in growth and demand gen and customer acquisition. And she also worked for Flipkart, Striver, BioRender. I think your range, Rashi, is so interesting from startup to really scaling and fast growing company. So you could share a bit more about your tactics. And myself, I'm Veronique. I'm currently the CM of Pinnacle AI. We're an AI coaching company. I'm also the founder of Maison Lafargue, we're a boutique marketing agency advising early stage startups. So with that, I think you have a lot of context about the three of us, but we'll also share Rashi and Jacob more as we go. So just wanted to start with this quote. 2 weeks ago was the AI ROI Summit. Really interesting conferences about how we measure the impact of AI in different organizations. And Scott Galloway always has a good quote, AI is corporate Ozempic. Yes, we're seeing a lot of companies are staying really slim or slimming down, but it means there's much more weight on founders' shoulders. Maybe if you guys want to do a quick show of hand of who's a founder in the audience, that could be interesting for us. And you can do a virtual show of hand. Yeah, see quite a few hands. Thank you. So I think you relate to that. So because there's so much, and many of you shared also it can be overwhelming with the fast pace of AI, we wanted to cover three aspects of it. Foundation, some of the systems you can put in place, and then the growth tactics. So for me, looking at foundation, I think it's really a paradox right now. And we see that all the time. That's why we've been talking about AI slop. AI is great at generating a lot of output, but if you don't have a strong core, it becomes very generic. So my advice for founders today is really to build a knowledge base around those four dimensions. Audience inside, founder point of view, having a distinctive brand. Yes, even if you're early, brand is a word you should consider. And then building trust. We know because of the easiness you have to build any product today with AI, being able to build trust is one of the key differentiator. And it's not easy. There's a lot of distrust. I'll start here about deep audience insight. And if you wonder about that photo, it's one of the founder I interviewed for another podcast a while ago, the founder of Tello Trucks, who mentioned to me how they've been building literally this beautiful EV truck from so much feedback from their Discord community. Because I feel like we're so excited about the tool. Sometimes with AI, you can record all your sales conversation, you can get a lot of transcript from your customer interviews, but I would say just don't forget in this age that you're going to miss some nuances and emotional drivers if you don't talk to people live. So I work with a lot of very successful founders. What I've seen is how you use your pitch events. Events are 100% back. People love the live connection. Community and advisors. I think advisors are also a great way for early stage founder to grow, to collect a bit more nuances that you can then scale back with AI and with all the tools you have. Something we all get very excited about also today is how we can use our transcript and information and really nuanced audience insights to combine them and create those like digital personas that we can use for marketing testing. And I know we'll talk about more marketing campaign later on in the discussion. But again, it's my reminder that don't skip the human aspect because this is really critical. To win a category as new founders, again, something you don't want to underestimate and move fast. I know it's sometimes time consuming, but start with your point of view. And if you've seen what happened recently with Anthropic, OpenAI may have been first in getting LLM out, but because of Anthropic got so more vocal, we saw a shift, many people trying and adopting cloud instead of ChatGPT because of this very clear opinion of Anthropic with the Department of War. You don't have to be public about all your opinion in the same way, but I would say document that really well. And things like what you see on the picture, manifesto is a great way for founders to really articulate that point of view because then you can always come back to it. It's one of the foundation you want to have. And as you grow, even in an early stage startup, as you grow, your manifesto, your thesis is something that's going to help you attract candidate and differentiate your brand. Another thing people tend to overlook, and I want to go back to because it's one of the key foundation, is having your identity. I recently created a blog about the brand identity of AI companies, and this is just an overview, but from generic LLMs to more vertical companies to really industry-specific use cases for AI, I think you can already see at a glance how these people are trying to make us feel. Like Lovable has been really successful, taking a fairly differentiated approach by creating a UX, a UI that feels warm. They're called Lovable. That's also a big statement to what they want people to feel about their brand. So something, as you're going to scale with AI, I would really encourage people to spend time thinking about what their brand is supposed to create in terms of feeling and emotion and value and beliefs. And I don't want to add more on Founders Plate, but as you start also scaling with some of the visual tools of AI, whether it's Nano Banana or other models, you have also to shift a bit how you think about yourself. It's about not being just someone prompting an AI, it's about being a director. And there's a lot of visual language that you can now quickly pick up and will need to use to make prompts something that really resonate and not just be frustrated with a basic outcome from Nano Banana, as I've been in the past before, just investing time to learn how to direct your AI to see and to produce. So these are just a few examples of concepts. And then finally, I mentioned trust. As we've seen with many research, trust in institutions, in governments, even in brands is going down, but there's a huge trust in founders, in individuals. The singularity effects tell us we care more about one person than a group. So as a founder, I would say really document your origin story and your beliefs. That is something you can always go back to and get your AI to learn how you think and what is your background. Collect your social proof. You can't have too many quotes from your advisors or customers. Put that in and document to put it in your repository. And then we've seen also a good way to build trust has been to build in public. Those are different examples of founders I really appreciate showing what you do. So all your product information are going to be really important to build trust and differentiation. So just to wrap this basic foundation section, we really want our AI and AI agents to work from one source of truth. So these are the three buckets I always go back to. Your style guide, and mine is probably already like 5 or 6 pages about do's and don'ts and how we speak and using past languages to really build it up. Your messaging library with some hierarchy, AEO, so the new version of SEO is going to also be really valuable for you on your blogs, on your website, but it all starts with having a very clear messaging library. And then finally, product knowledge and competitive data. Those three buckets are going to be your critical foundations to really build on top and be able to scale without having a brand that's completely disconnected and inconsistent. So that's it for foundation. I think what we're going to transition to now is having Jacob tell us a bit more first about Relay and show us how you can turn that into a system with agent.
Sounds great. Hello, everyone. I'll share my screen in just a moment, but let me first introduce myself and then the two things I want to talk about in the next 10, 15 minutes. I'm the founder and CEO of Relay.app, which is a small company that builds the AI workflow and agent product that I'm about to show you. We're a 9-person team. We have 5 engineers, 2 designers, a product person, and myself. And so I'm responsible for all general and administrative and go-to-market functions within the company. Finance, legal, HR, recruiting, business operations, sales, marketing, support, customer success, etc. And the only way, yeah, Michelle, maybe 9 is going to look big in the coming days. But the only reason this is possible with a 9-person team is that we have about 60 AI agents filling in all the roles that we don't have a human for. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a tour of my actual AI agents and some of the responsibilities they perform on my behalf and how I work with them. Then second, this is the new thing that's been increasingly coming up in the past few days is there are so many agentic tools out there now that people are wondering, when should I use Claude? When should I use Claude Cowork? When should I use Claude Code? When should I use Airtable's new super agent? When should I use Manus? Should I set up an OpenClaw? Should I buy a Mac Mini? And I'll give you a little bit of a framework that you can use to think about which AI modality is the right choice for the right type of task. I'll show you the particular tools that I use, and Rashi, I think, will show you some other tools and ideas in just a moment. But most importantly, I want everyone to have the right mental model of like which AI type of tool is the right one for the job. Okay, let me dive in and share my screen. So first, here is my AI team in Relay.app. And as much as possible, you want to think about this AI team as autonomous workers that you work with just like you'd work with people. You give them job descriptions, you give them responsibilities, they perform tasks on your behalf proactively and automatically, and you give them feedback all with natural language. So you can see I have a personal assistant, a LinkedIn marketer, an email marketer, a Reddit marketer, an AEO marketer that I've been working on recently, a YouTube producer, a competitive analyst, a business analyst, a user researcher, a support agent, a QA agent, a sales assistant, a recruiter, a teaching assistant, a bonus credit manager, because we give bonus credits to our users for various reasons, a legal assistant, and an HR agent. And so that's my team. You can see I have maybe 15 agents that work with me. And then other members of our company have also created AI agents that fill their functional responsibilities. So Annika is a designer on our team, but she also created an AI agent, or she manages the AI agent that runs our partner program, the AI agent that runs our affiliate program, the AI agent that manages our live events, like including this one, an AI agent that manages our educator program, an AI agent that manages all of our user quotes and customer marketing. And then you can see that every human on the team has a set of, 3 to 20 agents working for them. And it depends a little, again, I think what we've seen is this class of like persistent job description based agent is a little bit less useful in R&D because R&D tends to be more bespoke, one-off, new features, new projects that are well suited to a different class of agents like a Claude Code agent or a Codex agent or a Cursor agent. But for G&A, general administrative and go-to-market tasks, the kinds of agents we have here in Relay.app are really, really valuable. So let me just show you a couple of them. First, I'll show you my Oh, can everyone still hear me okay? I hear a little bit of feedback. It's okay? Okay, cool. So first, let me show you my personal assistant. And this is a personal assistant that basically everyone should have or create. Let me tell you what it does for me. First, it briefs me before every meeting. You can see that it briefed me 45 minutes ago about this session that we're doing right now. After meetings, when a one-on-one follow-up is required, it automatically drafts those by detecting based on the transcript if a one-on-one follow-up is required and it drafts it. I then review it and send it. Every day, it notifies me of any conflicts or unusual events the next day. If I have guests that are attending a meeting I've scheduled and they haven't RSVP'd yet, it reminds them to RSVP to avoid no-shows. I have one of my AI agent's responsibilities is to remove cold sales emails from my inbox. I get a lot of, if those of you are founders, you probably get a ton of these every day. I also subscribe to a lot of high value newsletters, but I don't want them to interrupt me during the day. So I get a once daily summarized digest. My AI agent reminds me about important tasks that are overdue. For example, I need to send a customer a renewal form that I was supposed to do yesterday, but I really need to do it today. And then this last one I just added recently because one of our long tenured team members, it was his birthday last month and I totally forgot about it. So now I asked my personal assistant to remind me whenever an employee is coming up on a birthday or a company anniversary. And then each of the individual responsibilities of my AI agent is modeled as a flowchart. In this case, your model is a workflow. And we can talk about the distinction between like markdown file based skills and structured workflows. There are situations in which you'd want to use either or potentially both. But let me just show you one example. My meeting follow-up drafter. So you can see here that this meeting follow-up drafting workflow triggers whenever a transcript is created from my preferred note-taking product, which is Fireflies. The first question the AI asks itself is, should we follow up? Because we don't need to follow up on like casual coffee chats or big group meetings. We'll need to follow up if there was something in the content of the meeting that specifically suggested we should follow up. We stop if we don't need to follow up. If we do need to follow up, we look up some additional context around the event, like other events that may have preceded it or other emails that may have preceded it in leading up to the event. We have AI write the email draft, and then it puts it into my draft folder as Gmail. And so now, if I want my agent to modify this workflow, I can just talk to it in natural language. For example, like there's this customer of ours named Rob who I meet with every single week, and I never need to send a follow-up email to him because we always schedule our next meeting in the call. So I just say, quick thing, we never need to follow up with Rob. So check for that at the beginning. I'm not going to mention like any workflow steps or any kind of technical language. I'm just going to describe it just like I would to a personal executive assistant. Never need to follow up for Rob. Check for that at the beginning. And then what it's going to do is it's going to figure out how to modify the flowchart of the workflow appropriately to make sure that the right things happen. So it's thinking it's kind of a little bit of a cold start thing because I haven't asked it to do anything for me yet this morning. But I think what it's going to decide is that in step 2, it's going to add a little bit to the prompt saying like if the person's named Rob, don't follow up with them. We'll let that think for a second. And okay, there no question yet. So it says, yeah, I'll add an end run if step right after the AI step to trigger skip any meetings with Rob. That is actually Rob's last name. So it's adding a step to skip it if he's one of the attendees. I won't show you the rest of that process. You get the idea. And so you can imagine the same process I go through with each of my agents. So first, for example, I was working with my AEO marketer yesterday. This is the AI agent that tries to help us show up in conversations related to topics that Relay.app wants to appear for. The way we have that set up is the AI agent, in addition to its workflows, can keep track of some data. So in this case, it has a table of all of the questions I care most about. Give me a sec to load it. Ba-doo. There we go. Okay. So you can see that I have a list of 10 questions here. What is the best AI agent builder? What is the best Zapier alternative? Which AI agent platform is easiest to use? And then in the table for each, I have my AI agent, run those searches on a regular basis and report which large language models mention Relay and in which context and with which quotes. So this is like the core data table. Then I have a monthly workflow where for each of those queries, it asks that question to ChatGPT, to Perplexity, to Gemini, to Claude. It then uses a subsequent AI step to check which large language models are mentioning Relay, saves those responses to a table, and writes a full consolidated report. So I can show you the most recent consolidated report. And here's the report it wrote for March 2026. Here's our overall visibility score. Here's which LLMs like us and don't. Claude likes us the most. ChatGPT likes us the least, which is kind of a bummer because ChatGPT has the most usage. It tells us which positioning themes are strong, which consistent weaknesses are flagged, critical gaps where questions that are not visible, and then some actionable insights. And so then what I did with those actionable insights is I gave my AEO marketer another job, which is it turns out that having FAQs at the bottom of your owned blog posts are really important for AEO because the way a lot of these AEO systems work is they'll notice a question, they'll try to find a word for word answer to the exact question. And so we basically have a system where now, based on where Relay is appearing, we have Rashi, you'll like this because it's an Airtable. We have an FAQ table in Airtable that basically automatically gets updated every month based on the new FAQs we should be sure to have an answer to. And it also makes sure that all of those FAQs are showing up in the right post. So that was kind of a deep dive into two of my specific agents, the personal assistant and the AEO agent. But this is the general way you want to think about architecting an AI team. Pretty much every function and every responsibility, certainly in G&A and go-to-market, should have an AI agent. So now I'd like to share a little bit about how I think about which tool to use for which job. My three daily driver tools are Claude on web, the chatbot, Claude Cowork on my local machine for things that don't have APIs or need to happen that access my local file system, and then Relay.app for my proactive, automatically triggered cloud agents. So let me give you an example in one specific context where I need to use both Claude Cowork, and Relay.app for different parts of an end-to-end journey. We have a weekly email newsletter. Many of you are probably here because you saw the event mentioned in our weekly email newsletter last week. And let me show you how I used Claude Cowork, and Relay.app to deliver that weekly newsletter. First, I use Claude as a strategic thought partner and synchronous brainstorming companion. So a very common type of thing I'll ask Claude is like, how can we make our weekly newsletter better? You can find a recent example by looking at emails from Jacob at send.relay.app, because that's the alias that sends those out. And because I've hooked up the Gmail connector to Claude, it has the ability to directly search for my historical emails to find this. So now it's confirming to me to see that it's read the newsletter. It's now smart enough to say, actually, I'm going to look at some previous examples too to get a better set of patterns. And now it's telling me what it doesn't like about it. It's saying it's essentially a calendar dump. There's no through line. The product updates are buried. The event list format is low signal. It doesn't sound, as direct or personal as you could. Here are some things that you should do better next time. This is actually great advice, by the way. Maybe if you read our newsletter next week, maybe you'll see I incorporate some of these changes. Read with one strong editorial hook, give product updates their dedicated section, compress the events, make it more human, etc. So this is the kind of work that I do with Claude. This is interactive, synchronous, text-based thought partnership where we're texting back and forth, sometimes using context from other tools, like in this case, Gmail, but it's primarily like a text-based thought partnership relationship. Once I've decided with Claude what I want to do, I give that as a responsibility to my email marketer agent in Relay.app. So you can see I have a weekly newsletter responsibility within my email marketer agent, and you'll see in just a moment what it does. Okay, so the way this one works is it runs every Thursday because we send our newsletters every Thursday. The first thing it does is it asks me, is there anything special that you want to highlight this week? I have 6 hours to reply to that. If I don't reply within 6 hours, it just goes ahead without a personal note. It looks up our recent videos. It looks up our events. It looks up recent newsletters we've sent for context. It writes the newsletter, saves it as a Google Doc, notifies the team. And then because our mailing list provider Loops does not have an API, the Google Doc is as far as it can take it. So what it does is it says, the weekly newsletter draft is here for review. It's in this Google Doc. When you're ready, go to Loops. Because Loops does not have an API, and this last step requires a human in the loop, this is when I need to invoke Claude Cowork. And so what I've done is I've built a skill in Claude Cowork that the skill is used whenever the user wants to take a newsletter draft from a Google Doc or pasted text and publishes it as a new campaign in Loops, our mailing list provider. So you can see it reads the Google Doc, which is produced by that Relay.app workflow in the email marketer agent. It then drafts a subject line and a campaign name for me. I then have a little human in the loop back and forth where we agree on that. Then mechanically, it goes to Loops in the browser. It duplicates the most recent weekly campaign, which makes sure it's going to the right audience. It updates the name, the subject line. Some of you may have received a bad email from me where it didn't replace first name. So you got an email which was like, hi, first name. So I had to add to the skill critical. You have to make sure to replace the hi first name with, the first name variable. And then the end result of this workflow is that I have a campaign drafted in a browser tab in Loops that I can just review and click send. I'm considering, if Claude Cowork does this well for the next 3 weeks, to take out that last human in the loop and say, just send it. I'm confident in your judgment. And so hopefully, this brief session has accomplished those two goals. One, to show you my personal AI team and how I thought about building an AI team with agents to represent each of the functions I'm responsible for. And then second, how in a real use case for email marketing, I use Claude, Relay.app agents, and Claude Cowork together for the full journey of like brainstorming what to do, how to make it better, building that into a routine workflow, and then delegating to Claude Cowork like the last mile tasks that require access to my local machine. With that, I think I've used almost too much of my time, so let me turn it back over to Veronique and Rashi. But
No,
yeah, I'll
Jacob,
stick
you're
around for
great.
questions.
That was awesome. Just a quick question here in context because we have a question about AEO. Will the AEO agent be available in the templates from Relay app?
Yeah, I do have a couple of AEO templates already, but they don't fully reflect the latest work I've done on the topic, so I'm hoping to have some new templates up soon.
Okay. And then someone was asking if we could use it in Claude Cowork. So I guess different approach to AEO. And AEO is a very really vast domain, so I really encourage you to spend more time if you're interested in AEO. There's a lot of nuances and subtlety on how you set it up. But yeah, have you also used Cowork for it?
Yeah, when to use Cowork and when to use Related App. Here are some of the dimensions that I think about. If you want something proactively, automatically triggered that runs in the cloud while your computer is awake or asleep, you probably need a cloud-based agent. That could be in Relay.app, it could be in other cloud-based agent or workflow automation tools, Zapier, Make, Gumloop, etc. Claude Cowork, it is running a browser on your machine. You can see exactly what it's doing all the time. And so your computer has to be open. It will consume your computer's resources. And often the way Claude Cowork works is because it is manipulating your own browser and running things locally, it can be quite performance and token intensive. And so the way I would think about it is kind of like I did that little brainstorm with Claude. I think it's very reasonable to start by asking Claude Cowork to do a one-off AEO analysis. Do a one-off AEO analysis. Here are 5 questions that I care about. Go search in these 5 places. Write me the results in a spreadsheet. It'll, slow down your local machine for an hour or two while it's doing that, because that's a long task. It's a lot of queries to run. It's a lot of analysis to do. And then if you have an idea of what steps you want to happen automatically in a cloud-based environment, then you should convert that into an agent. And one thing that you can often do is you can basically ask Claude Cowork, can you write a prompt for this that will enable me to turn it into a high quality cloud agent in a tool like Relay.app? And then you just copy and paste that into your Relay.app agent and it'll build the workflow. So for me, like cloud-based proactive agents are my main engine. And then I use Claude Cowork for supplemental work that requires my local machine. But of course, you're welcome to do the opposite. It depends a lot on how routine versus bespoke your tasks are.
Amazing. And I just want to point one of the comment because that's the first thing I also thought when seeing Relay app is your UI is fantastic. I think talking back to emotion of a brand, it feels so welcoming and friendly and clean and easy to use. So well done. Let's move on. Keep your questions for Jacob. We're going to have about 10 minutes at the end. I want to make sure we can get to Rashi. Rashi, why don't you give us a little bit more context about yourself and then we can dive into what you've been implementing at Airtable.
Yeah, for sure. Jacob, that was a fantastic session. I have not used Relay app, but I can tell you I'm so intrigued, excited, and want to get done that I think I'm going to go there next after the session. So really cool. Thank you so much for sharing. Hi, everyone. My name is Rashi. I am based in the Bay Area. I currently lead growth for a product called Super Agent. This is Airtable's latest launch and a standalone AI product. I was an acqui-hire. As a background, I started my career at Google. I was there for 4.5 years. I've done everything to do with paid media, digital marketing at Google. Google. I have led digital media channels at a company called Flipkart, which is probably a very famous company in the tech history of India. Go look it up. It's very exciting. And I've been in a bunch of Y Combinator-backed startups and essentially led growth for both PLG, which is self-serve user acquisition, as well as demand generation for very early stage teams, but also very, very large teams and growth at scale. So excited to be here and talk a little bit about how we use AI for some context about Super Agent and what it does. If you have not checked it out yet, it's just superagent.com. It's not AI. So go check it out. And I think the links are there on the deck as well. Super Agent is essentially custom built for deep research, but also the focus is on, because research can be extremely like fuddy-duddy, very long text forms, very difficult to consume as content. But this is research that then builds your strategy and does the thinking for you. It does have, it is powered by, I think I want to say, extremely premier data sources. We spend, I think, about $20,000 a month on, very, very premier data sources. And examples of that would be Polygon, Quartz, Crunchbase, FactSet. So we get very premium data, which powers our deep research. And then you could create outputs, which could be interactive websites. It'll build you an entire landing page of whatever strategy you're building. And an example of that is if you're a product manager, if you're a marketing strategist, you could create your entire strategy doc, whether it is, competitor mapping, white space identification, business idea validation, market sizing, anything that you want to do, and then build an entire strategy. It is a deep thinking model, so it takes a few minutes, but it will create slides for you that could be shared with your board. If you're creating a pitch deck for your VCs, it will create that for you, or even landing pages and interactive websites. Go check it out. It's very interesting, and it is one of my go-to tools. I will say when I started at Super Agent, I want to say 2.5 years ago, it's been a process of finding PMF and then getting acquired by Airtable. I was not a power user because I was trying to figure out how to actually use it. And today it's one of my top 3 tools that I use. So what brings me here today? I want to talk about 3 easy, quick wins of how someone who's in marketing can use AI, even if you're not building agents, and even if that takes you a little bit of like a learning curve. There are very easy things that you can do tomorrow morning, and that was the ethos behind what I want to share. So 3 things I want to share. One is, how do you generate content ideas for your brand? Tying this back to what Veronique was talking about, that if you're building a category or if you're a new founder in a new space, you want to build a brand, content is everything. Finding your POV, building in public, figuring out what your unique edge is and differentiation is, it takes a lot, because you also want to know what's the conversation in your space. What should you be talking about? If you're a founder-led sales or someone who's building a founder brand, like what is the most compelling conversations in that space that you should be talking about? So I'm going to talk about a little bit about that and how we do it, how you reverse engineer what your competitors are doing and what's happening in your space from a marketing perspective, and then do that at scale. And then I'm going to show you a very quick cycle of how can you launch campaigns really quickly in 2 days or less. So as Super Agent, we had a 48-hour cycle of a brand new product or feature getting shipped. And then how do we take that to market to test out positioning, persona, for ICP? For context, Super Agent is a more horizontal AI product. It's a native AI product, but it's horizontal. It's not vertical. So we did have to test it out as to which this feature is going to resonate with which core segment of audiences. So I'm going to show you how we did that in 2 days. So let's dive in.
Rashi, you want to take over the
I can do
screen?
that. Yeah. Give me a
I'm going to
second.
stop sharing.
Yes. Where you might have to, oh, there you go. All right. All right. The first one, I want to start with actually a mindset idea that I learned from a fantastic marketer called Tom Orbach. I hope I'm not butchering his name. Tom, go look him up. He's fantastic. He has his own Substack as well. Tom is the director of growth marketing at Wiz that had a brilliant exit with Google very recently and shares fantastic ideas. So I learned from this from him a few months ago, and we've been using it pretty extensively since then. So one of the channels that's very critical for us is X. And the reason X is very critical for us is because we're an AI native product, we need conversation and we need brand building and awareness among AI enthusiasts, people who are early AI adopters, and the core AI communities who are really tinkering with AI every day and creating different workflows for themselves and using it very excessively in their work. And so understanding what's happening in X, who are the thought leaders there, what's the conversation, what's going viral, which is very relevant to our niche space that we operate in, is super critical. So very simply put, what did I do? I use Grok AI for this. And the reason for using Grok AI, I don't know how many people use Grok here. Do you have a show of hands? Anybody uses Grok? No? All right. So this one might be a little bit of an underdog, but where it's relevant for us is Grok AI is powered and connected to X and all the conversation on X. And this is where really new tools are getting discovered and anything that's happening in AI, the latest developments. Shivangi, yeah, great. So someone's using Grok. So this is where the latest and greatest in what's happening in AI is being talked about. This is where people really hear about the adopters really hear about the latest tools that come out. And so what I've done is it's a very simple project. I'm going to give you a demo in a minute. It's a simple project or a task, sorry, that I've set up at Grok, which then is connected to X. And then I have specific things and context that I've put in the task of what I want to know. And it's a daily digest email that I get emailed to myself as a growth marketer, where I want to know what's happening, what are the main conversations, what are the things that people are most riled up about or complaining about. And then I use that to generate new content ideas and talk about what our founders should be talking about, what our brand should be talking about. So an example I wanted to show you of the kind of the key segments in the task setup is first is your product context. What's your product? Who is this for? What's the differentiation? That's like the baseline that you need. What is the biggest news in my space? And the things that I want to specifically track is what is the biggest funding in the space? What are the latest product or features that have been launched? Who's cracking a partnership with anyone that we should be kind of concerned about or thinking about? And any kind of platform changes in the core competitors that we tend to look at. And then I need that in a very easy bullet form of like, what's the headline? What happened? When did it happen? And should I care about it? Another section that I really care about is like, what's the hottest topic in this space? Like, what's the most conversation that's getting a lot of engagement on X that I want to keep talking about? And the other thing is what's viral? What's going viral? And like, which demo in my area has done really well that could give me more inspiration? Because a lot of people would put out their demo videos on X and that kind of goes really, really viral. So I want to know about that. And one cool hack is if your product lends to influencer marketing, creator marketing, all that good stuff, and I'm happy to talk about it because we lean very heavily into that. You also want to know who are the thought leaders in that space, who are the people who are having the most meaningful conversation, and they actually could become your advocates or brand advocates or people that you partner with them in a very meaningful way. Now, I'll give you an example of this. When Claude Cowork came out, obviously it took off. Everyone was talking about it. But the one video that really stood out for not only for me, but for a lot of podcasts, because a lot of podcasts like the AI Daily Brief, they would reference this video, was a video by Claire Vo. So Claire Vo, if you don't know, she was the CPO of LaunchDarkly. I think she still is, has a fantastic podcast called How I AI. Go check her out. She's fantastic. But she really dumbed this down and figured out who is Claude Cowork for, how do you use it, when should you use it, and what makes sense for that versus cloud-based agents, something that even Jacob touched on. So that specific video did so well that if I was in the Claude team, I would absolutely partner with Claire because she has a massive following, she has a whole subscriber base. There are people, she's a thought leader in the space. So that's a fantastic way of identifying people. So this is like my hack for how do you kind of use Grok, but I think I have this preloaded. Are you able to see my screen? Or give me a thumbs up if you can
Yes.
see my task. Okay,
And
perfect.
quick question for context, is this done with a free version of Grok? That's a question we got in the chat.
Yes. So believe it or not, this is the free version. This is not the pro version. So the free version gives you up to 3 tasks. The reason I'm on the free version is because I honestly don't use Grok beyond this. This is like my biggest use case for even using it right now. So 3 tasks, but if you want more than that, and if you want a lot more hookups, then yes, I think you want the pro version for it. So I want to give you guys let me see if you can see my screen here really well. Okay, so I've obviously defined a role. You're my daily intelligence analyst. Every morning, send me a crisp digest covering my most competitive AI space in AI research, deep research, and AI generated business outputs. This is my product. These are my closest competitors. Biggest news in my space that I really care about and what I want to know. And this is for every 24 hours because this really gives me ideas of like what my LinkedIn post for that week should be for our brand and for our founders. So we do a lot of content gen from this. There's a prioritization of things I want to know. So I obviously want to know like latest product launches and what's happening. And if you're building in the AI space and if you're working very closely with product and eng teams, which I do on a daily basis, knowing what's happening and what's moving and what is the latest product there is very critical because like Jacob said at the top of the meeting, things are moving at a lightning pace. Any new model comes out, any new launch happens, and then suddenly either your one workflow is obsolete or people are just going towards it, and you want to kind of keep up with that and know. This is something I use regularly to even share with our product team and our eng team so we can constantly see if we are still differentiated in the market. And like the great Elena Verna once said, we are on a PMF treadmill with AI because you're finding PMF every 3 months, if not sooner. So I think this is where it's really key for me. I've also said what should be flagged, what should not be flagged, what are the hottest topics that people are talking about. For each theme, I want to know what's the topic. what's warming up, what's an early signal. So kind of a categorization there because I love prioritization, viral content, and post-worthy knowing because this is where the content and ideas really come from. And then yeah, I think there's a kind of a deliverable of how I want it. I like to read it in bullet points. So I kind of want to make it like not more than 10 bullet points because I'm honestly not going to read it. So that's how I've treated it. It's an email me only, and then I can give you a quick view of how it is been set up and the output that you get, which is what's happening, what should I know about, should I care about, should I must act on, or is it just worth watching right now? So the reds and yellows really pop out to me, and then the hottest topics that I should care about. So yeah, this is honestly, I think that, people talk a lot about getting productive with AI, but you can also get very creative with AI. You can set this up for anything that you need. Even if you're launching your own Substack, your newsletter, your YouTube channel, you can really hook this up with any platform that's critical for you. And it's going to get that data from there. I think you should also cross-check this with Claude. I haven't set it up in Claude, but I think Claude would do a better job for, I think, other channels like Reddit maybe, but this is like really cool for X. All right. So the second quick win that I want to talk about is we run a lot of ads marketing, obviously paid media. Some of you may be on that stage, some of you may not be on that stage, irrelevant of it. It's just good to know. Every ad platform out there, whether it's Meta ads or Instagram ads or TikTok, LinkedIn, all of them have an ads library. I hope you know that because if you don't, like this is something like marketers tend to know, but just go check it out on Google, just like Meta ads library or LinkedIn ads library on Google, and you'll find it out. What that is by country, you can go and filter down to any competitor that you're watching and see the ads that they're running. What you're not going to know from them is you won't know the performance in terms of like which creative did better or not, but you do tend to get to know like what's the pattern of what are your competitors talking about in the space. And those who have more invested teams in editorial content who are really kind of shipping out great blog pieces or content pieces, you actually can, even if you don't have the budget to do a whole lot of market research, this is a great place to know like why do they have that insight? Why did they write this? But the good thing is that you don't have to do this by yourself. You can take screenshots of different ads that your competitors have run from different platforms, feed all those screenshots into Claude, and ask Claude to do that pattern recognition, find your competitive edge if they have context about you, and if you've set it up the right way, and I'm talking about that in a minute here, you can find out a unique POV, even what you should be testing in your ad channels or even in your content channel. So I think it's pretty cool. You guys should go check it out. Another interesting one is if you have run any paid media ads, you could actually then put screenshots of ads from your competitors as well as ads that you have run, and then ask Claude to find out like, are you more repetitive? Do you have a unique edge? What are you doing more of that you should be stopping? And what are you doing less of that you should be doing more? And I think it's a brainstorming, like Jacob said, I use Claude exactly the same way. I brainstorm a lot with it. So I think it's a good interactive way to figure out what's working, what's not, and find your blind spots. So it's a cool hack. You could get started with this tomorrow, try it out. And yeah, definitely reach out if you have any questions and if you want to know more about any of this. Put some feedback there. I think some noises. Okay, great. The last one I want to talk about, and I'm going to do a demo of this so you'll see like live what happens is our operation cadence as super agent is at the speed of lightning. There is not a moment to rest. We're in the space of AI. It is cutting edge. It's crazy. It's at a breakneck speed. We constantly have to keep an eye on what our competitors are doing, what's happening in the space, what's OpenAI doing, what's Anthropic doing, and where's our edge. And so what that means is that we're shipping products and features at a speed of lightning. I think we do one feature launch every 2 weeks, if not sooner than that. Sometimes it's even a weekend. And so what happens is that marketing then has to be in lockstep with product and edge equally fast. We are our own testers of our own product in marketing. We're using our product every day. We're figuring out what's the best use cases. But also sometimes for horizontal products, what happens is you also want to figure out like which are the core ICP or core segments of audiences that you should be targeting that's going to most resonate with this feature. Get some early users into the product, get them to use, learn from the behavior, maybe even do some sort of market research or speaking like user interviews, figuring out what's working, what's not, and go through an iterative process. That's what we do at Super Agent. And I have designed a very simple process where we can get a campaign launched and in market in 48 hours or less. And so you'll see like how that works. My product lead is also the CEO and the founder, so I work very closely with him. We're a very lean team. I would say that we'll one-up Jacob. Jacob is a team of 9, but he has multiple agents. We're a team of 2. And we intend to keep it that way. So you can imagine how intense it is and how productive we have to be. So the old way of a paid media campaign going live was you have to give a brief, you have to kind of figure out what what you want to do, who you want to target, and then the dreaded word of ICP. Like everybody's like, what's your ICP? Who are you targeting? Like who should we be targeting from our for our campaigns? Then you're going to go and do some research and discovery. Then you're going to figure out, what your campaign should be, what should the theme be, what should the messaging framework be, what you should be testing, and then which channels are going to really fit into that campaign, get budget, get approval. I'm probably going to say end to end, this is best case scenario, like at least a 3-week process, if not more. There's a whole part of creative development, which is a whole different thing. And I can speak about how we do it at Super Agent if that's of any interest. The new way, though, is we have had to condense this entire process really, really quickly in a very efficient manner where we can do a product intake form. For us, that's the process that works the best for us, which is the product lead has a form that they will fill out and they're going to basically say, this is the feature, this is who's it for, this is why it's different, this is what we want to test, and then wait for marketing to go figure out how to put that into market and get some early users in. And then I create a Claude project. That's what I use mostly for it. And you'll see, I'll give you a demo on how we set that up. The whole campaign plan is generated from context that has already been built into Claude. And the best way I think about this is, that the power of the output you're going to get from any AI tool is probably the quality of the question and the guardrails you're going to put around it and the context you're going to give it. There are times, and I won't lie, where I have written a prompt for 30 minutes. That is not the most efficient way to work. To cut down that time, and because of the scale and the speed that I work at, there has to be context that has to be already set into Claude. And then Claude has very, very specific instructions into how to actually generate the output for me. And I would say in the new world, seeing from everything that even Jacob showed, a lot of our work is going to become how do you manage multiple agents and how do you audit them and make sure that you put in the right criticalities and the guardrails in there. But it's also constantly reviewing the output and really using your brain for not the repetitive tasks, but more for the more strategic tasks that you can get out of it. I'll also show some foundational documents on how we set that context up and then what that project looks like. And I'm happy to answer any questions around it. I will caveat that anything that you see is the whole thing is for a demo purpose. So none of it is true. So don't ask me like, oh, is Super Agent doing it? It's not. I just created this just so that I could give you a good demo. A lot of it is sensitive, so I really can't talk about it. All right. With that, I'm going to show you a demo. Let's see. I think I can open here. All right, you guys can see my screen? The red window's up? Okay, awesome. All right, so this is a Super Agent marketing campaign. The example I'm going to show you is how do you get a new feature live into multiple different channels and like what's the creative assets that you're going to require. At a time, we have identified about 3 to 4 core channels where we tend to do testing. And the reason for that is we have different segments of AI adopters who are present in those channels. And we want to be able to create creative assets for them and know exactly who we're targeting and what's the goal and objective that we want to test out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you the instructions of how this has been set up. So your head of growth marketing, specializing in AI native product launches. So this is very specific to the space that we belong in. You have access to we have 6 foundational docs. Honestly, you can have a lot more, and I'm happy to share what are some foundational docs which are helpful. I know Veronique shared a few as well, but some of the ones that we use is we have very strong brand guidelines, messaging pillars and tone of voice, founder voice, and personal brand. This one's a really interesting one, so I want to stop here for a few minutes. In today's very, very crowded marketplaces, founders have become the face of the company. Employees have become the face of the company. So if your founder is not leveraging their social media platforms, and if you're a founder yourself, if you're not building in public, talking about who you are, who your product is for, I think it's a miss. I think people are craving for a real brand and personification of a brand and really want to know, what you stand for and what you're trying to solve instead of being salesy. So this is the most non-salesy thing you can do is talk about your space. And so this has been very critical for us. I'm also happy to show you what the foundational doc kind of looks like. It's not the real one we use, but you'll get a gist. Native channel guide and ad copy best practices. As a marketer with someone who has so much of experience behind yourself, you want to be able to bring to Claude or any AI tool you're using the actual human context that lives in your brain. There are years of experience of knowing what works on LinkedIn, what doesn't work on LinkedIn, things that work on X or Reddit. I don't necessarily think that we're competing with AI in this, but if there are nuances and things that you've seen that has worked for your product or not worked, and if you're not capturing that and putting it back into your AI tools, I would say that that's a missed opportunity, and that's something you should be thinking of if you want your performance marketing campaigns to do better. There are competitive battle cards, obviously, who you compete with, what's your edge, what should you be looking out for? For example, my competitor X uses the terms, ABC. These are things we don't want to use. want to give you guys one example of brand guidelines and things like this. Not every startup or every founder has all of this fleshed out and created like a well-established team. We're aware of it. But I would encourage you to think about what's the most basic notes you can give your AI tool. And it could be something as simple as don't use the term AI powered because it dilutes what your AI actually does. Because every SaaS that is trying to transition into AI will say AI powered. Like that was an insight that we had that it actually does us a disservice. So we have that as a brand guideline. So I would say that just think about like some do's and don'ts and guidelines, and that's a great framework to start with. And of course, ICP in terms of who you're specifically using for targeting versus not. And a great example here in terms of a guardrail is in the AI adoption curve, you'll find that those who are the power users and really kind of building and doing and building agents, maybe someone like Jacob, is actually using AI on a day-to-day basis. But you'd be surprised, maybe not, but a lot of people, tech operators who are working in different functions, they actually just use maybe 2 to 3 AI tools at best. They're not necessarily launching agents every day. They're actually getting jobs done and maybe using ChatGPT, Claude, or maybe 1 or 2 other tools. So when you are trying to acquire those users, you also want to be very specific about which AI adopter in that spectrum you probably want to kind of acquire. And if you're not in the AI space, I would say that think about it in terms of SaaS or any other industry that you might be in. Before generating anything, this is my probably favorite hack is always audit the intake brief first, which is the product intake form, which I'll show you. Flag anything before proceeding. Any kind of competitive claims or unverifiable attributes. If your product team says that we can get this done in so many minutes or so many days, I think anything that can't be verified, you want to kind of be able to flag that. Use cases that feel very generic for your product and maybe better use cases to kind of how do we identify them, specific metrics or claims that don't seem to add up. So do some research around that. And then any missing fields that you think are very critical. For us, it's going to be the budget tier, campaign goal, proof points, launch date. These are very critical for us. Present each flag very clearly so we know. And then after the brief, there's going to be look at all those foundational docs that I talked about and what you have to do for each doc. What are you going to check for? For example, there is a demo video brief. So we have a demo video usually kind of created and we always get a transcript in. So we want to see like, what are we saying in that and what are some call outs that should be there in my ad messaging as well. And then always apply from project documents. So we're constantly telling the project to kind of go back to the foundational documents and then create an output for me. Standards that apply to every output, things that should be universal, and what's the format of the doc you want. So we typically work on Google Docs. It's simpler for people to drop in their comments and say what's working or not. So once the product intake form has come in, you upload that into the project, you make sure your project has these instructions and these documents for it to kind of follow. And then you want to take that entire campaign plan that you've just built out, which has to be very simple, typically a 1 to 2 pager, because product guys are not going to look at a very detailed plan, just like who are you targeting, what are we doing, what's the messaging, what will they see when they go on social media, and then like quick, like what are the reviews that we need from them. So super easy. I can share screenshots of this, so we won't spend more time on this, but I wanted to give you a quick view of the kind of docs I have. I have these in Markdown files. Again, you could use PDFs or any files, really. It does not matter. It's almost moot point, but I wanted to show you how we created one document for Chris Chang, who's the founder and CEO of our company, and really what his founder voice is. So what's his profile? What's his personal voice? What's his background and credibility? Why should someone believe him? What are his some voice characteristics? He's deeply technical. He's actually an introvert and he hates being salesy and kind of boasting and saying things from the roof and, kind of riding tides of any kind of seasonal things. And he hates anything that's viral. What is his earned confidence? Shows the thinking, not just the conclusion. So like what got him to kind of with his POV that he is, and some examples of stuff that he's talked about in the past. This is super critical for us because we're also going to generate pieces for him that can go onto LinkedIn, on X, on any other platform that he really talks about, even his Substack. And then typical phrases he would be using and the phrases that he's never going to be using. And this is where we just create this thing for him in minutes and he was going to give a quick view to it, sometimes review it, sometimes not. And then we go post it out from his handle. So this is like super handy dandy. I want to give you.
We only have like 3 minutes to wrap, and I want to make sure we can share the goodies before Jacob has to leave. I know you have a hard stop.
I can actually stop here. This was the example of the project. What I can do is share the template of the product kind of intake form that we have and then the output that this project creates. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful and it shows you how we're kind of bringing in efficiencies using AI, easy, quick wins you can do tomorrow morning. But yeah, happy to turn it over to you, Veronique, for any questions.
No, I think it's so impressive. And you can see the reaction, I think, in the chat. Everybody is so impressed. Not only by the speed of our two speakers, I think both of you are speaking really fast, but about the depth and velocity. And I have a question from Monica I want to go back to. But again, I know Jacob has to leave. So I wanted just to make sure everybody knows. So this is what we just summarized with Rashi. And we prepared a few goodies for all of you attending today. Jacob, you want to tell people what you have for them?
Yes, if you want to try out Relay.app, you can get 500 bonus AI credits per month for 3 months using the code Zoogler at bonus.relay.app. Make an account first and then use the code. If you've already used a discount code previously, this you can't use two discount codes together, but feel free to email me directly at Jacob@Relay.app and I can give you some special bonus credits. If you'd like to get in touch with me, Jacob@Relay.app. Feel free to email me personally anytime. And I host 2 to 3 live sessions per week teaching different AI agent topics. So I hope to see you all in the future. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much, Jacob. And I'm sure everybody would want to try and play with Relay app. Rashi, do you want to tell people also what you have for them?
Yeah, I too have a cool AI credit for y'all. You can use Level Up 3. It's going to give you 3 months of Pro free. The free version right now has, I think, 10 reports that you can run, but do check it out. If you ever thought that I'm not a marketer, I'm a founder, I don't know how to create a marketing strategy for influencer marketing or paid media or whatnot, it's going to build the whole thing for you based on industry standards. So check it out. Hope you enjoy it. And if the code doesn't work, just please get in touch with me on LinkedIn. Happy to also connect, but we'll help you out with that. And I did want to leave you with one cool tool. Look at There's an AI for that. It's a fantastic marketplace for finding the greatest and coolest AI tools. If there's anything you want to automate, whether it's creating slides, decks, presentations, websites, you can find anything that you want. So check it out. We use that quite extensively. So, yeah.
Amazing. So you'll get the link. I know it's not easy to get the link from this. And then finally, I also prepare a few things for you because we talk so much about the founder's voice and the brand. I know a lot of people are struggling on how to even tell that story. So I created a guidebook with some of the AI prompts you can use, and you can get it for free here. And also for 3 people who are struggling with their messaging, because everything starts with that messaging and competitive lens that you're putting on. I'm doing a short clinics. I'll get 3 people to do that with me. So you can just sign up on the link here and we can do that and review your website and make sure that messaging comes across. So you have that foundation that you can then scale with AI. Or with that, everybody have a wonderful day. Hopefully that was helpful. And yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. We are all on LinkedIn. We're pretty easy to find. So thank you and take care.
Thanks for joining, everyone. Bye.